Let us know exactly what happened. Let's roll it. Let's play it. This is them speaking to Adam. Let me get this pulled up. So this is from X right here. And these was the ladies that was escorted for the game. It says breaking the mother and daughter paid $1,000 per ticket to attend today's Indiana Fever game.
Watch their faces carefully. A mother and daughter who just paid $1,000 each for floor seats are being told to cover their shirts or leave. Not because they're causing a disturbance, not because they're harassing players, but because of what their clothing says. And what you're seeing in that moment is the realization that they're about to be made an example of in front of thousands of people. This isn't an isolated incident anymore. It's becoming a pattern across multiple WNBA arenas. And the league that promised to operate with love and humility is now facing serious legal exposure because security personnel can't seem to understand the difference between enforcing actual safety policies and discriminating against fans based on their political views.
Yeah. Third row of floor 3.
And how much were your seats?
$1,000 each around? Yeah. And we did nothing. Like, we were just sitting there. I didn't make signs. I wanted to make signs, but I didn't. I did nothing.
They made us put our shirts on.
I did notice during the game on the Jumbotron, they put up a woman wearing a shirt that said protect trans rights or something.
She's the one who told on because she was made to zip up her jacket.
So she also had to zip up her jacket?
But I think that's
that's bullshit too. She shouldn't have to.
But they put her shirt on the Jumbotron.
I know.
It's almost like the message was made and they said now zip it up to make it seem like they're
Third row floor seats at an Indiana Fever game in Atlanta. That's premium positioning, the kind of tickets that sell out in minutes. And these two women weren't making signs, weren't chanting, weren't doing anything except sitting there wearing shirts from XXXY Athletics, a company that advocates for Title IX protections in women's sports. The shirts don't have profanity, they don't target specific players, they simply reference biological sex categories in athletics. But here's where this gets legally problematic for the WNBA and the Atlanta Dream. According to the league's own published fan conduct policies, attendees can be removed for creating unsafe environments, using abusive language, or interfering with the event. Wearing a shirt that expresses a viewpoint on women's sports policy? That's not on the list. Which means when security approached these women and gave them an ultimatum, they weren't enforcing arena policy, they were making up new rules on the spot based on someone's personal objection to the message.
Walker, I did all of that.
Yes.
And did this issue ever come up? Like, did a biological man ever try to play against?
No, we're from here, so it hasn't happened here
A lot.
But I can't believe that just happened
Yeah, that's
in
shocking.
Atlanta, Georgia.
Wow. So that was the mother and daughter that was forced to So look. So this was the scene during the game, guys. This is the mother and daughter there. Floor seats. Watch this.
Now catch what she says about the Jumbotron moment. During the same game, Arena Operations put a fan wearing a Protect Trans Rights shirt on the big screen. That fan was later asked to zip up her jacket, presumably to create the appearance of consistent enforcement. But here's the difference. That fan got featured on the Jumbotron first, got their message broadcast to the entire arena, and only then was asked to make a minor adjustment. Meanwhile, the women wearing XXXY shirts were immediately confronted by security, handed Atlanta Dream promotional shirts, and told to cover up or get out. That's not equal enforcement, that's selective targeting with a thin veneer of fairness applied after the fact. And from a legal standpoint, that's exactly the kind of inconsistent application of policy that makes discrimination cases winnable. When you can demonstrate that Arena A allowed Message X to be displayed prominently before requesting modification, but immediately suppressed Message Y without any display time, you've established disparate treatment. That's not a close call, that's textbook viewpoint discrimination.
Shirts over their existing XXXY Athletics t-shirts. They were told by a security guard that their shirts were offensive and they had to put on this Wellness Night t-shirt or they would be escorted out of the building. This is during overtime of the Fever vs. Dream game. Here's them, you can see on the right, with the t-shirts on at the tail end of the game. This is discrimination, this is disgusting, shame on you, Atlanta Dream.
The visual evidence here is damning for the arena. You can see them sitting courtside wearing the Atlanta Dream shirts over their original clothing. They complied with security's demands because the alternative was being escorted out of a game they paid $2,000 combined to attend. But compliance under duress doesn't equal consent, and it definitely doesn't shield the organization from liability. Think about what message this sends to every other fan planning to attend a WNBA game. If you express the wrong opinion on your clothing, even if that opinion relates directly to women's sports policy, you can be singled out by security and forced to hide your viewpoint or leave. That's not creating a welcoming environment for diverse perspectives. That's creating an ideological litmus test for who gets to enjoy the game they paid to see. And here's the thing that should terrify WNBA legal counsel. This is happening at multiple venues now, which suggests either coordinated policy from the league level or such poor communication of actual rules that individual security teams are freelancing their own content moderation.
You waiting, but I'm just saying, if you do decide to wear your shirt, just know, and they mess with you, contact an attorney. Quick, fast, in a hurry, bro. In a hurry, bro. Because I'm seeing some big time action. Big time action. Here goes this guy right here. So this is the gentleman that captured everything. And he's clearly a Trump supporter.
Let's talk about the legal exposure here, because it's substantial. First, you have potential breach of contract claims. When someone purchases a ticket, they're entering into a contract with the venue and the team. That contract includes the published terms of service and fan conduct policy. If those policies don't prohibit political messaging on clothing, and security removes someone anyway, that's a breach. The fan paid for access they didn't receive, and they were denied that access for reasons not covered in the agreement. Second, you have discrimination claims under public accommodation laws. In Georgia, places of public accommodation cannot discriminate based on political affiliation or viewpoint in many contexts. When you allow one political message to be displayed prominently on your Jumbotron, but immediately suppress the opposing viewpoint, you're engaging in content-based discrimination. That's legally vulnerable regardless of which side of the underlying debate you support. Third, and this is where it gets expensive, you have potential civil rights violations if this pattern continues. When multiple venues under the same league umbrella all start enforcing unwritten rules that target the same category of expression, that starts to look less like isolated security decisions and more like coordinated suppression. Discovery in a lawsuit would reveal whether the WNBA issued any guidance to teams about handling these shirts. If they did, and that guidance amounts to keep those messages out of our arenas, the league itself becomes liable, not just individual teams.
And they got all different colors here. Look like they start at about $40. They got hats and everything here. You guys can see XXY Title IX athletes. You dig? They got men. They got men apparel too. Title IX. One love, two balls. You dig? For the guys. Now, this is, I'm not saying go order this.
The XXXY Athletics website is straightforward. They sell apparel advocating for sex-based categories in sports, with messaging focused on Title IX protections. The shirts reference biological reality in athletic competition. Whether you agree with that position or not is irrelevant to the legal question. This is core political speech about public policy. It's not obscene. It's not threatening. It's not targeted harassment of individuals. It's advocacy for a particular interpretation of federal civil rights law. And here's what makes this legally bulletproof for the fans. Title IX is the very law that created women's sports protections in the first place. You cannot credibly argue that advocating for Title IX enforcement creates an unsafe environment at a women's basketball game. The cognitive dissonance is staggering. The WNBA exists because of Title IX. Every player on every roster benefited from Title IX protections at the collegiate level, and now fans are being ejected from WNBA games for wearing shirts that reference Title IX. The irony would be funny if it weren't resulting in paying customers being humiliated and removed from arenas.
You feel me? You feel me? Just saying, this is the site in case y'all might be interested in purchasing some XXY Title IX shirts. This is where you will go. But I want to know your thoughts down in the comment section right now. Make sure y'all keep them bells on, man. And until next time, Shake the haters off. I'm out of here.
Here's what should happen next, and what probably will happen instead. What should happen? The WNBA should immediately issue clear, specific guidance to all teams, clarifying that fans wearing clothing with political messages, including messages about sports policy and Title IX, cannot be removed unless they're violating specific pre-existing conduct rules, like blocking views, using profanity, or harassing other attendees. They should apologize to the fans who were wrongly targeted, refund their tickets, and provide additional compensation for the humiliation of being singled out. They should retrain security personnel at every arena on what actually constitutes removable conduct versus protected expression. What will probably happen instead? The league will stay silent, hoping this blows over. Individual teams might issue vague statements about welcoming all fans while maintaining safe environments, without addressing the specific incidents. Security will continue making inconsistent judgment calls based on which messages they personally agree with. And eventually someone with resources and determination is going to file a lawsuit that the league cannot win on the merits, resulting in a settlement that costs far more than just doing the right thing would have cost in the first place. The pattern we're seeing suggests the latter scenario is more likely. After Stephanie White's comments about leading with love and humility, after the league's own statements about inclusive environments, we're still seeing fans ejected for peacefully expressing viewpoints on women's sports policy. That's not a communication problem, that's a values problem, and it reveals a fundamental tension in how the WNBA wants to position itself versus how it's actually operating. Think about the position this puts players in, particularly someone like Sophie Cunningham, who these fans came to support. She didn't ask for this controversy, she's not responsible for arena security decisions, but now her fans are being targeted and removed from games, and she has to navigate the political minefield of either staying silent or speaking up. If she defends the fans, she risks backlash from teammates and league officials who disagree with the message. If she stays silent, she abandons supporters who spent serious money to watch her play. There's no winning move for her in this situation, and that's entirely the league's fault for allowing this inconsistent enforcement to happen. The Atlanta Dream organization has been particularly aggressive in promoting progressive political causes, which is their right, but when your political advocacy crosses the line into suppressing opposing viewpoints among paying customers, you've moved from expression to discrimination. You can hang pride flags, you can feature social justice messages on your Jumbotron, you can make statements supporting whatever causes align with your values. But the moment you start removing fans for expressing different views on those same topics, you've created a legally indefensible double standard, and let's address the safety argument that will inevitably be raised. Someone will claim these fans were removed because their shirts might provoke confrontations or make other attendees uncomfortable. That's not how free expression works in public accommodations. You don't get to silence speech because someone else might react poorly to it. If another fan harasses or threatens someone over their clothing, you remove the person making threats, not the person wearing the shirt. This is basic First Amendment principle, and while the First Amendment doesn't directly apply to private venues, the underlying logic absolutely applies to public accommodation law and contract enforcement. The economic calculation here is fascinating. These women paid $1,000 each for tickets. That's premium pricing that reflects high demand for fever games, largely driven by Caitlin Clark's popularity. The WNBA has spent all season celebrating record attendance and increased revenue. But when fans willing to pay top dollar show up and peacefully express support for women's sports through a particular policy lens, they get ejected. You cannot build a sustainable business model on the assumption that you can charge premium prices while also maintaining ideological purity tests for attendance. The market doesn't work that way. What makes this particularly frustrating is how easily avoidable it was. If the WNBA had simply maintained neutrality on this specific debate, none of this happens. Fans with different views on Title IX policy could attend games, cheer for their teams, and coexist in the same arena just fine. But when league personnel start actively suppressing one side of a legitimate policy debate, they create the exact divisions and controversies they claim to want to avoid. They've turned what should be a unifying celebration of women's basketball into a political battlefield where fans have to worry about whether their views will get them kicked out. The comparison to other sports leagues is instructive. To see fans at NFL games wearing all kinds of political messaging, from Blue Lives Matter to Black Lives Matter, from pro-choice to pro-life statements. As long as the language isn't obscene and the fans aren't causing disturbances, they're allowed to stay. Security doesn't police the content of political opinions expressed on clothing, they police conduct. That's the appropriate line. The WNBA has somehow convinced itself that it needs to curate the political opinions visible in its arenas, and that's both legally dangerous and practically impossible to do fairly. Discovery in a potential lawsuit would be fascinating. Lawyers would subpoena all communications between league officials and team security personnel regarding these shirts. They'd depose the security guards who made the removal decisions and ask what training they received. They'd request all incident reports from games where fans were removed or asked to modify their clothing, and they'd compare the enforcement patterns to see whether certain viewpoints were systematically targeted while others were allowed. If that discovery reveals what it appears to reveal based on public incidents, the league's liability becomes overwhelming. The settlement value of a case like this depends partly on what the plaintiffs want. If they just want compensation for the humiliated ejection and ticket refund, that's relatively modest. But if they want injunctive relief, requiring the WNBA to change its policies and training across all venues, that becomes more valuable and more impactful. And if they pursue punitive damages based on willful discrimination, arguing that the league knew or should have known this enforcement was improper, the numbers get serious quickly. For an organization that's still not profitable and relies heavily on NBA subsidies, a major civil rights settlement would be financially devastating. But beyond the legal and financial implications, there's a basic fairness question that the WNBA needs to grapple with. Do you want to be a league that welcomes all women's basketball fans, or do you want to be a league that only welcomes fans who agree with your political positions on every issue? Because you can't be both. And right now, through the actions of security personnel at multiple arenas, you're choosing the latter. That's a choice that will limit your growth, alienate potential fans, and create ongoing legal exposure every single time it happens. The mother and daughter from this incident should absolutely consult with a civil rights attorney. They have documentation, they have witnesses, they have video evidence, and they have a clear case of disparate treatment. Whether they choose to pursue legal action is their decision, but the strength of their potential case should concern every WNBA team and the league office. Because if this goes to trial and they win, it sets a precedent that will cost the league far more than just the damages in that one case. It establishes that fans cannot be removed for peacefully expressing viewpoints on women's sports policy, and it opens the door for every other fan who's been similarly targeted to bring their own claims. So here's the question for WNBA leadership. Was it worth it? Was ejecting 2 fans who paid $2,000 combined to support Sophie Cunningham worth the legal exposure, the bad publicity, and the message it sends to everyone else who might disagree with your political positions? Because from where I'm sitting, this looks like an unforced error that's going to cost the league significantly more than just letting people wear shirts expressing mainstream views on Title IX policy. You can't claim to celebrate women's sports while simultaneously punishing fans for advocating for the law that made women's sports possible. Pick a lane,